Hello everyone, welcome me back to Wednesday night. This is an exciting night. I actually dedicated some amount of time to trying to figure out Nightbot to try to make a thing happen. Did I dedicate enough time to it? The answer is no. No, I did not. Will it work? Probably not. But I guess if it does work, then it will turn out a surprise twist that I will have spent enough time on it. So I hit Bowmark here with the primer coat all over, and the log bits coming off the bottom here are looking okay. I think I've convinced myself I don't have to re-coat them all with clay yet again. I can just do a little more carving detail on them and they'll be fine, which is great. The not so great news is I'm now looking at all these rings and how like flat and wonky they are compared to the rest of the dimensional elements, and thinking for the second or third time I need to go over them yet again. Now that I did this kind of beaten metal, you know, gong looking inside part, I'm gonna need to redo the outer part. It seems too like it's a mix of being too industrial, not tribal enough. So it has the tribalosity of being like kind of askew, imperfect, wobbly, but then it fights that with being like machine flat like that. So yeah, I'm gonna do that tonight. I was surprised this addition here to the shoulder seems to be holding up pretty well. I think it needs another pass or two with the sanding, but not too bad, all things considered. Actually, before I start sanding that, and before there's too many people in here, I'm going to go ahead and do some drilling on this because I want to get some of the water features cleared out so I can sculpt into them better. Cover your monitors if this is too loud for you. I suppose ideally I should have done this before I started the stream, huh? It might actually be better to start with a considerably larger drill and just get most of the material out of there rather than doing kind of a perforation thing like I'm doing now. Fortunately, because of the freeform air that's mixed in with the rest of the epoxy clay, it carves really nicely, but you can see it's like pretty darn thick down there. So I think the better part of Valor is just going to be to do some bigger drills, actually. You know what? Let me try that now. Because I think it'll go pretty fast. That's my hope. Yeah, actually, so this is an island and this is an island, so I'm going to need to figure out a solution for keeping those in place. Yeah. Fairy fountains. Some of these little channels are a little too thin for that last bit. This little river is then too thin for this one. good enough rampant drill destruction for a little bit. Safe to turn your speakers back on again. How's everyone doing tonight? Alright? I'm alright, I guess. I've been better. I've been worse. Not been having the best time at work. Can't really talk too much about it, except to say it hasn't been very fun at work. If you weren't here last time, I talked a little bit about our road trip, and that was that's one of those events that once enough time passes, I'll look back and think how super fun it was. But right now it's a little too, the stresses of the trip are a little too raw for me to say it was fun. But I do think it was good. It was a good trip. I put a lot of emphasis on the kind of making a movie side of our trip, as opposed to simply kind of being father-son bonding time. You know, I wanted it to be both. I don't know if I made the balance perfect. I hope that the end result of Shane having a movie that he's edited and done special effects for, and you know, maybe it gets him a job or at least a foot in the industry. You know, at that point we can look at it and say, okay, yeah, I made the right decision as far as that balance goes. But it's too early to say. Still haven't decided how angular I want to keep this map, as opposed to rounding out some of the corners, give it a little more realism. I'm gonna look at my reference again real quick, because I have a picture which I believe is from the original Legend of Zelda instruction booklet that inspired me a lot as a kid. It's right here. And so this definitely rounds out corners pretty considerably. It still has maintains some of the grid-like structure of, you know, boulders. The trees, though, it really just kind of adds little clumpies that are kind of, you know, they imply what's there rather than, you know, are trying to be a 1-to-1 ratio. So, and last time I decided, you know what, for time's sake, because I don't want this to be a huge time sink, let's do what's faster, and what's faster is to do a more kind of generalistic impression. So I'm really just saying that out loud to remind myself, and to kind of ease up on my tendencies, which, you know, I tend towards this kind of perfectionism and this kind of overly oversized emphasis on reproducing rather than evoking. I think what I might actually do is just purposely go in and kind of muss up these shorelines a little bit to make them not perfectly straight lines. And then I'll emphasize that once I put the terrain in, the kind of slope leading down into the water. Fairy fountains always, to me, they kind of implied a semi-man-made structure, like, you know, like a French garden pool, as opposed to just a natural little lake. So I can go a little more geometric with those. Kalika, greetings! Welcome! How's your night going? Oh, hey. Now that someone is here and made a comment, I'm going to try a thing. I think if I do... Oh, I forget. Was that Nightbot or Streamlabs? I could do this. I think in Nightbot, you can do... Where are you? Giveaways. Oh, I'm on the giveaway tab. How do I make that happen? Roll it. I'm gonna roll it. Hey, Commander Root! Thanks for following. Okay. I just rolled, and Aletha won the giveaway. Incredible! You did it, Aletha. Good job. I didn't tell you what the prize was yet. The prize is you get to clean our bathrooms when you come here to visit. Congratulations! Aletha, have you been aware of all the controversy that is broiling around ArenaNet right now? It's been pretty interesting this past couple days, let me tell you. Let me tell you is a weird phrase, isn't it? Because it's typically only said after you've already told someone something. It's also weird in that it's kind of posed as a question, but it's not. Or like a politeness. But because there's no question involved, it can't be polite. It's just, let me do this thing. So why would you even say it? I don't get it. Let me be rude to you right now. See, that doesn't work very well. Oh man, you're not up to date on the latest controversy. There was a big kerfuffle on Twitter that spread onto Reddit where one of our writers said some rude things and got fired, and then another writer who is actually a very close friend of mine was defending her, and he also got fired. And so a lot of people are very sad about that. He's actually a very dear friend, and he lives like a mile from my house. He helped me with the editing of Super Adventure Box. He helped me with, I think he did the editing. He at least did the voice direction on the Lion's Arch. What is that? The Captain Wayant, you know, ghost pirate jumping puzzle that I designed. Like, I wrote all the dialogue, and then he either did the editing or he was involved in the direction when the actors were doing the lines. So he was very beloved, both internally and to the community as well. Yeah, sadly I can't really make any public comments on how warranted or not the firings were. I can only report the facts, ma'am. It kind of turned into a bigger deal than it normally would have, because it wasn't just rudeness. You know, accusations of sexism were brought into it, and then you have the difficulty of, this is where there's the cultural divide between people who see, like, in my opinion, they recognize a real thing. In other people's opinion, they're making this up. But there is systemic racism, or, well, racism, yes, as well, racism, sexism, all the biases that humans have, are worked into our systems of culture, our institutions, and our habits, our patterns of thought and speech, etc., etc., etc. Like, it goes deep. And for many people on one side of the cultural divide, to say that, you know, this statement you just made is sexist, it equals saying you are a sexist and you are, you know, a misogynist who hates women. Now, on the other side of the cultural divide, that's not what that means. What it means is you are accidentally stumbling into a pattern that exists in society, and you're reinforcing a bad pattern that, you know, accidentally hurts people, according to the people being hurt. And it's probably a good idea to listen to people who claim to be getting hurt, because, you know, otherwise you're just going to hurt people more often than you need to. So that kind of really complicates the issue. You have people who are saying that the female writer who was rude to the guy was just out of nowhere pulling the sexism card. And in my opinion, what she was reacting to was a pattern that all of my female game developer friends agrees is a thing that happens to them, which is they are much more often assumed to be wrong, undercut, you know, their jobs are explained to them as though they don't understand them, challenged on their knowledge, you know, their knowledge and expertise, etc., etc. And so whether the particular guy who was disagreeing with her slightly, you know, explicitly felt, this is a woman, therefore she can't know what she's talking about. I don't think that's where he was coming from, but it doesn't matter to the larger point, which is that there is this pattern that occurs, and that was another example of that pattern occurring, like, just statistically. And so that's what my friend jumped in and said as well. He just pointed out, hey, just for the record, I've never had people challenge my expertise, you know, randomly online when I say stuff about my job. Yeah, so so it's not a black and white issue. It's not one of those things where I don't know. I don't want to ever say to a person, your experiences and the way you react to what you claim to be abuse is wrong. I'm not going to tone police them. I'm not going to tell them, you know, you need to rebel in my prescripted way or else you're being a bad person. I mean, okay, within limits, right? Once people start, you know, if the guillotine comes out and people of certain political parties start getting their heads chopped off, that's when I'll say you've gone too far, guys. But in the meantime, just being like mad at someone and losing your temper because yet another example of this thing is happening, I can't get behind like judging that person harshly. So yeah, that's where we're at. Is my music loud? Yeah, it seems loud to me as well. How's that? I don't know if turning it down in that actually changes it for you guys. It changes it for my headphones, so let me know if it changed or not. Better? Okay, cool. Yeah, so my official statement on the matter is, it's complicated, I'm sad, I sure wish things had gone differently. One of the saddest things about it all is that ArenaNet is by far one of the most diverse and inclusive studios that I know of. You know, as far as like medium-sized game companies. I mean, the last company I worked at, which granted was a long time ago, but I've heard this from many other people that they come from similar situations more recently. The last place I worked was 48 or 49 dudes and one woman. And we were probably 95% white dudes on top of that. So, although one of us had dreadlocks. So I don't know if that helps or hurts the case, but just throwing it out there. Yeah, so and I've been a big part of the sorry, I'm not claiming to be a big part of the initiative. I have been bigly invested in the initiative that we have to be more inclusive and welcoming to diverse people. You know, I'm involved in our Women in Gaming organization that we started at ArenaNet specifically to get women in the industry, but now there is a perception amongst a certain demographic that ArenaNet is hostile to women and feminism, and you know. So yeah, this just set us way back, in my opinion, and it's gonna take a while to dig out of this from that perspective, from wanting to be an inclusive studio that has diverse employees, because those help us with more diverse mindsets, more interesting ways to tell our stories, to build our game mechanics. Like, everything about a creative endeavor is helped by having lots of different life experiences pitching in to the idea process and the implementation process, in my humble opinion. On the plus side, internally, we've had lots of conversations and meetings and that have forced us to have difficult conversations about that sort of thing, about what exactly are our values as a company. You know, who do we want to be aligned with? Hey, Gonzalo Hernandez 3D. Welcome, welcome. Thanks for following. What was I saying? Oh, difficult conversations. Right. It's really hard in a diverse group of people to say, hey, here's this social divide that is ripping our country, well, in most countries in Western nations, you know, it's ripping cultures in half. And what do we do about that? Do we take a side? And that has all sorts of pitfalls with it, because a side usually means you're aligning yourself with a whole constellation of issues that we as a video game company don't want to touch, because it's just bad. It'll turn away a lot of customers. But I think more importantly, like, it wouldn't represent everyone at the company. We have a diversity of political and social opinions. Any company is, right? So if we were like suddenly, hey, we're Democrats, or hey, we're Republicans, or we're whatever it is we would say socially, politically, suddenly then, oh, therefore ArenaNet has this stance on gun control and abortion and states' rights. You know what I mean? It's like, that's just ridiculous. No company can do that. But then how do you articulate your company's values when they intersect with political culture, with that political cultural divide that we have? And I think this really forced that issue to the forefront. It's like, we can say, yes, players first, all we want. And I agree with that. I think everyone at ArenaNet agrees with that. Yes, players first. We love our players. And then, but our players is a nebulous concept. Who are our players? There are millions, and they have all sorts of different opinions on things. Okay, Nightbot, let's see. The alias you set this command to of timer test does not exist. What does that mean? What is an alias? Okay, Nightbot. This is my commands. I have 2 custom commands. Oh, one of them disappeared. I wonder why. Okay, so I do have exclamation point YouTube. What happens if I manually type that in? Exclamation mark YouTube. The alias you set this command to does not exist. No! Hey, Magic Penguin. Welcome. Yep. The prodigal Super Saiyan has indeed returned. And I'm about to turn Super Saiyan! Because stupid Nightbot. I wish I could levitate up in the air and just like punch my computer, and then it would just work. Like, what does not work about this? What does it mean that an alias does not exist? Alias? This is a command. It's just supposed to say, hey, here's links to the YouTube channel and the Facebooks and etc. etc. Okay. This is all the time I'm going to waste on it. I'm just going to do a Google for whatever. Okay. What did it say? The alias you set this command to does not exist. Okay, I am going to Google that phrase. Okay. How to set an alias. You have to make a command for the original plus the alias, so it's duplicating commands. Okay, if I don't find out in the next like 15 seconds, I'm just going to give up and I'll check this page afterwards. One of the timers showed error message. Okay, if you edit the timers, blah, 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 you can see you or someone else added commands that do not exist in the alias field. If you set the alias field when the timer executes, it will try to run the alias, not print the message. I do not see an alias field. Control F, okay, alias. The word alias is nowhere on this page. Alright, I'll have to come back to this. anyways. It's asking for my Bleed Zao alias. What was my Bleed Zao alias? Was it just Scribe? SCRYBE? Maybe. Maybe that's what it's doing. Time to drill. Sorry about that. Aletha, I apologize if I startled your cats. I'm thinking of next stream. I think I'm going to do part of it showing how I edit an episode of the Shadow of the Colossus video, because it's already, what is it, the 11th, and I haven't even started on this month's Shadow of the Colossus video. So every minute I'm doing this, I'm not finishing that. At least if I'm doing my math right. If I understand the concept of opportunity cost. Oh! That reminds me! Do I have this? I don't. Okay, I'm gonna do this thing real quick. You guys love it when I do things real quick. And if we go to here, yes. Okay. Save image as. How do I not have a C temp? I always make a C temp. Oh, because this is a computer dedicated. This is why. Okay. Save it there. Now, go to that folder. C temp. Let's see, and I can make this wallpaper, right? Show me how to make it a wallpaper. Edit with photos, edit with Paint 3D, set as desktop. Yes, that. Do that. Ah, it doesn't fit. That's gonna be in one of these display setting things. This is gonna be worth it, guys. It's gonna be so worth it. Display. Resolution, landscape. Come on, where's wallpaper? Personalize? Is that what I need? There we go. Fit. Boom. Okay. Now we are fitting. Nope. Oops. I accidentally set a tile. Man, I'm so good at computer, you guys. Fit. Now I want a white background. White isn't an option? Okay, yay. Got it. Okay, now I can show you my screen. Boo, 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 boo. Oh no! But it doesn't fit. Why does my screen not fit in the thing? This doesn't, no. here we go. Can I tell that to fit in the screen? Oh, there's an option, right? That's just like fit. I know there's a fit option. Transform, fit to screen. Boom. Okay, here we go. Yay. This is Cognitive Bias Codex. I love it. I love it. Do you guys want to know why I love cognitive bias study and research? It's because I make mistakes all the time, and often those mistakes hurt people, and I hate hurting people. And what I've learned is that the more I look at these lists and charts and articles about cognitive biases, the more I recognize them in myself, and I'm like, that's why I said or did or that thing or made that assumption, etc., etc., etc. I need to move the screen up. Hold on. Here we go. Okay. So, as you can see, this is divided into 4 basic categories. There's what should we remember, when there's too much information, when there's not enough meaning, and when you need to act fast. And they're color-coded to be like, here's the mistakes you will make in this situation. So, I'm going to go to the need to act fast category, because I feel like this is something relevant to stuff that has happened in my life recently. And I'm just going to start at the very top. So, in general, humans, we favor simple-looking options and complete information over complex, ambiguous options. This is exactly what I was just talking about. The cats are too distracted by a new toy Michelle got them. Nice. A fluttery butterfly that spins around on a bouncy wire. That sounds really great for cats. Okay, so here, simple looking options. So in other words, what we do is we end up creating false pictures of the world that are simpler than what is actually going on in the world. Because we need to act quickly. And if you actually sit there and think through all the complexities of a given situation, that would take too long, and then you're eaten by the proverbial tiger because you took too long deciding if it was a tiger or not. Okay, so there's a good reason we have this bias. And then, knowing that this is a thing that our brain does to us, we can then be empowered to, when we recognize the impulse happening in us, oh my God, I gotta act fast. This is bad and this is good. This is fast, this is slow. That person is mean and that person is nice, etc., etc. That's when you fall into this set of biases that are listed here, which is the less is better effect, Occam's razor, conjugation fallacy. Well, Occam's razor is not a bias, but I guess it could be a bias. Conjunction fallacy, Delmore effect, law of triviality, bike shedding effect, rhyme is reason effect. Okay, so I'm not going to read through them all. I'm just going to pick the top one and do it. And this is just something I want to do every stream. I just want to pick one and look at it because this stuff's super fascinating to me and I want more people in the world thinking about it. So the less is better effect. Let's see what that's all about. Less is better effect. Okay. It's a type of preference reversal that occurs when the lesser or smaller alternative of a proposition is preferred when evaluated separately but not evaluated together. Okay, that sounds complicated and I want an example. Okay, identifying the effect. In a 98 study, professor of blah 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 discovered the less is better effect in 3 contexts. So number 1, a person giving a $45 scarf from scarves ranging from $5 to $50 as a gift was perceived to be more generous than one giving a $55 coat from coats ranging from $50 to $500. Okay, So this is a very fancy scarf versus this is a bottom of the barrel coat, even though the coat is technically worth more than the scarf. People would say, oh, the scarf's a better gift. Okay, 2. An overfilled ice cream serving with 7 ounces of ice cream was valued more than an underfilled serving with 8 ounces of ice cream. Okay, that you can make out, like, you know, here's a big cone and it's not all the way filled, and here's a little cone but it's overfilled. You're going to be like, oh, the overfilled one is worth more. 3. A dinnerware set with 24 intact... Oh, I've read about this one. 24 intact pieces was judged more favorably than one with 31 intact pieces, including the same 24, plus a few broken ones. So you see the broken ones, and your perception of the quality of that thing goes down, not in proportion to what is rationally actually there. Let's see. This dude noted that the less is better effect was observed only when the options were evaluated separately, and reversed itself when the options were juxtaposed. Okay, so when given together and said, would you rather have this expensive scarf or this cheap coat, people could see that and say, oh, yes, the cheap coat is better than the expensive scarf. Explain the seemingly counterintuitive results in terms of the evaluability hypothesis, which states that separate evaluations of objects are often influenced by attributes which are easy to evaluate rather than those which are important. Okay, I really like that last line. Yeah, so, okay, what's something easy to evaluate? Okay, so I've also heard of this, like, in car sales. It's the reason that when you go to a car dealership, all the cars are, like, super shiny. Like, they don't need, and they wash them every couple of days, even though they're not being driven, but they, you know, they get dust or, you know, whatever on them. You can look at a shiny car and say, ooh, this is worth a lot. And it could be right next to a car that's worth, you know, 10 or 20,000 more dollars, but it's dusty, and or maybe it has like one scratch, or maybe the windshield's cracked, and that's like a $500 fix, but it's still worth $9,500 more once you got the windshield fixed. But you would look at that thing and be like, this thing's no good. This is not worth as much as this cool shiny one. Ideally, this is my fantasy. I would love to have a podcast or a show where we have a bunch of guests and we talk about these fallacies, and we talk about specifically how the fallacy of the day has impacted them. I think that would require more like pre-planning than I just gave this, which was, you know, just me looking at a screen and researching, you know, just reading something real fast. But to me, that's like a really cool idea for a show. There's a podcast called You Are Not So Smart that talks a lot about cognitive biases and logical fallacies like these, but it's not really like application oriented generally. I would love to see something where real people are saying, yeah, this is how this has realistically affected me. And that was the less is better effect. There's no way I could remember to associate the term less is better with what they described, unless I totally misunderstood what they described, which is also possible. Magic Penguin says, I would talk on that kind of show if I felt smart like that day. Yeah, some days you feel smart like, and other days you feel not smart like. Yeah, I've had days like that. I mean, I've had both days. Most days I feel like pretty confident and competent in my ability to articulate my ideas, my values, my feelings even. But then there are days where I offend someone or hurt someone accidentally, and then all my self-evaluations of how good I am at that stuff just go directly in the toilet. And I'm like, I am terrible at communicating. I don't even know why I try. I should shut up from now on for the rest of my life. Sadly, those feelings don't last long enough to actually moderate my overall personality. I still probably talk way more than I ought to and sound more confident on subjects than I deserve to. You know, it's a personality quirk thing. I wonder how much of that less is more effect. I mean, it's definitely stretching it conceptually to apply it this way, but the thing it makes me think of the most is the way we evaluate other people just based on their looks. And which is just an awful thing, and it's unavoidable, and there's no way you can change human nature to you know, not do that. And even if you could, would it necessarily be desirable? Because there are cues that, you know, we've evolved to pick up on, like danger, this guy's a creep, or this guy is getting so angry he's about to be out of control. I can tell by the way he looks, or the, you know, just the way he carries himself or whatever. And sometimes those signals are wrong, but I've certainly heard many stories from many people about, you know, they just had a bad feeling about a person because of the way that person looked, and you know, they were probably safer as a result of their action, based on that intuition. That's the tricky part about a lot of these cognitive biases that we have, is that you know, they evolved that way for a reason. Like, our culture has changed the way we live in this world quite a bit, but not completely. Letha says, I've felt that quite often, that I should just not talk, but I talk anyway. And then I put my foot in my mouth like a pro. Excellent. Like a pro. What's the best way to get in there? Maybe I don't need to. It could just be a shallower rapids river. Doesn't need to be as deep as the rest. Oh, I missed this little pool up here. One moment. Cover your ears, ladies and gents. It says, so there's this ebook ad site I've been trying to get a book on for over a year, maybe even 2 years. And finally, today, I got an email saying my book was approved instead of declined. Wow, congratulations. I mean, Is this something you have to pay for, I assume? It's weird that a pay place would say no to anyone. I guess they're trying to have discerning clientele. Is that the idea? Do you want to share a link to the ad? Old Baldy! Hey, Old Baldy, thanks for raiding. What's up? Letha says, have to pay for it, but they are very popular and picky about the books they accept. Okay, so you're getting, yeah, so you're getting a more distinguished, for lack of a better word, audience, a more discerning audience that expects a certain quality of books to be advertised to them. Do you think it was a numbers thing, like you just, like they were checking your Amazon ranking or something like that before they decided to approve the ad? Or did you just bother them so much they were finally like, ah, fine, we'll advertise your book, fine. Hopefully it was the former and not the latter. I know you're, is it your first book to save 2 worlds? I know that's been on sale recently. I'm sure that helped sales. At least book numbers. I don't know how much it helps an actual author to actually make money, but I'm sure it helps numbers. Old Buddy says, hey, raiding at random. If you call 2 viewers a raid. Hey, I will not complain. I'll take whatever I get. What kind of content are you all about, Old Baldy, and your 2 followers? I'm making a Zelda map in case you can't tell. I do that, and I also do 3D printing. So I sculpted this guy in ZBrush and printed him out, and now I'm doing a bunch of cleanup work on him. And here's a cute little version of him. So that's the kind of stuff I do. What kind of stuff are you about? Letha says, got 23 book sales in one day during the sale to save 2 worlds. So that was nice. That's my highest record so far, but it didn't pay the ad back by far. Yeah, there sure is a lot of investment that indie authors have to make. Let's see, don't know how they decide. They have people who look at books and make sure it's something they want to advertise. They also have space and whatnot. Okay. Well, that's awesome. Congratulations. I hope that turns some corners and opens some new possibilities for you. I should pop this out as well, just to give people a sense of where this came from. This was a 3D print done by Retro Design 3D that I ordered, and then I made a mold out of it and cast it in this gunk. And now I'm carving it up because I want to make a cool looking map type thing that looks kind of like that. And in the meantime, we talk about things like cats and cognitive biases and working at a video game company. And what else have we talked about tonight? That might be the extent of it. Mostly gaming, tank games, and shooters. Tank games is its own genre? That's cool. Let's see. I've heard of World of Tanks. I work on a video game called Guild Wars 2, but it is neither a shooter nor a tank game. Well, I can't completely say that. The Char do have tanks, and I believe there is a kind of a tank racing mini game you can participate in. I think that got in. It's hard to remember, you know. I've been working on Guild Wars franchise for 14 years now. And boy, we sure have done a lot of different things and ideas that come up, and then we're like, no, we can't do that because of scope. But then we come, you know, later we'll revisit the idea and eventually get it in, and sometimes we never do. So it's hard to say. A map for ants? Yes, it's going to be right next to the library for kids who don't read good. This is from the original Legend of Zelda game, in case you don't recognize it, like the 1986 NES Zelda game. But yeah, I think ants would be quite at home here. Played Guild Wars 10 years ago. Yeah, it's changed a little bit since then. Guild Wars 2, for instance, lets you jump. That was a big improvement, in my opinion. It's also a very it's a very more actual MMO in that there are other players everywhere, not just in the towns. We've had a couple expansions over the years. The latest one, we have really cool mounts. What else have we done? Since we were able to jump, I created a whole bunch of jumping puzzles because I've always loved platformer type games. So I credit myself with inventing the jumping puzzle in MMOs. After we did it, a bunch of other games started doing it. A bunch of other MMOs. Debatable whether that was a good idea or not, but you know, it happened. Oh wow, this ground here is completely breaking through. Yikes. Alright. I think that's probably enough shore carving for a while. And then I'll just keep doing it after I say that. You know how I like to keep you guys on your toes, by constantly lying to you. AJ Baki says, Mom and I got stuck on the latest story though. We gotta wait until one of my sisters who is better at gaming can help us. The jumping puzzles are brilliant, even though I'm really inept at them. Old Baldy says, I love that Zelda game. Last Zelda game I liked was Link to the Past. Yeah, I really like the old ones. Did you try the, there was a DS one that came out a couple years ago that was very much like Link to the Past. What was it called? It's the one where you can flatten yourself into like a hieroglyphic Link and walk along walls. That was really good. Yeah, the first Zelda is probably the game that got me into, like, really planted the idea of making worlds for people to explore. And I would argue it's what eventually propelled me into game design and art. I'd played plenty of video games before Zelda, but none of them got across this idea that you are like in a virtual world. That was, you know, they were always like individual set pieces before then. Or just like, I don't know, like Mario has a big world, but it's just, it's so like random to me. It never really resonated. Like, here's random pipes and random mushrooms and random, like, everything was so random. It just didn't stick for me the way Legend of Zelda did. Just very different flavor of fantasy, I guess. And it's funny, like, as Zelda like evolved throughout the past 30 years, like I never loved it. I always liked my particular take, like my childhood imagination of what it was as a kid. In fact, since there's a few new people here, I'll show you guys this stuff. Oh, actually, never. I don't need to. Just look straight above me. Look, there's Zelda stuff up there, like sculptures that I've done of Zelda critters, based on kind of my imagination of what they were in my mind as a kid. So what kind of channels do you typically stumble across, old Baldy? Is it common for you to come across just like a random guy sculpting a Zelda map? Like, my understanding is the vast majority of channels on Twitch are people playing games, which is one of the reasons I didn't get on it until just recently, because I want to make art. I already make games all day. Like, I don't want to spend more time doing games. So many games. Although, you know, here I am making art of a game. So I don't know if that really... Yeah, whatever. Okay, now I'm done with this. I just need to set this aside. Budgeting time. Trying to be cognizant. Still need to get that video out by the end of the month. Need to get these books done by the end of the year, hopefully. This guy here, Bowmark, is for a book that I'm working on with my co-author. Like a fantasy adventure type of book. Mobaldi says, I watch as many or more creative channels as gaming channels. Oh, cool. Glad to hear I'm not just some like random weird anomaly and you're like, what is this garbage? Oh, that reminds me, Aletha, did you ever ask Bjorn if he wanted to meet up when you guys are up here? I should figure out how to IM him via Twitch. I assume that's a thing that can be done. But honestly, I haven't got any alerts of his channel going live in weeks. I assume it's still going, but I don't know if it's something I have wrong on my settings or what. Yes, old Baldy, I could still be random and weird. In fact, I look at me. I am random and weird. Like, how much more random and weird can you get? I'm a 43-year-old Super Saiyan looking dude sanding a 3D print. how much weirder can it get? At least according to Magic Penguin. He thinks I look like a Super Saiyan. I assume he is referring to my hair, not my ripped orange shirt or whatever. I have not done a raid yet. I've only been on Twitch about, what has it been, 3 months maybe? I'm still trying to figure out the basics, sadly. Can't get my Nightbot to work. I did at least get the following thing to pop up, so that's nice. Obaldi says, communicating on Twitch is trash unless you can click on someone's name while they're online. It's tough to figure it out. Oh, that's too bad. Though, let's see. I'm trying to think, does he have a YouTube channel? I'm pretty sure I follow him on Instagram. Maybe I can IM him on Instagram. Aletha, can you email me or message me on Facebook the dates and times you guys were going to be here, so if I contact him I can have a solid proposal? Magic Penguin says, maybe not the top rank Super Saiyan, but maybe a level 1 or 0.7 Super. Okay, cool. Over 9,000 art skill. Yes, excellent. As long as I'm over 9,000 in my art skill, that's what I care about. I sent a friend of mine a link to the last stream where I showed the video of my, you know, the footage that I threw together of our trip, and but it started like 10 seconds before that footage, so it looked pretty much like what I'm doing right now. He was like, I don't see any trip footage. All I see is you polishing your toys. Which I thought was a very hilarious way to put it. Oh man, Nightbot is out of control. Magic Penguin, were you here when I showed the footage of our trip? I feel like I might as well show it again because it's pretty funny. Hey, see you later, Baldy. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks for the raid. Appreciate it. Good job, randomness. At some point I gotta do something like that. Gotta add that to my list of things to figure out about Twitch. I kind of like how this texture down here ended up making it so that the line ends up in this kind of jagged, kind of napped stone look. It definitely goes with the kind of tribal motif. Alright, a magic penguin. I'm going to show it real quick. Just because it's fun. There's no sound or anything. It's just kind of showing some of the stuff we did. This was antique shop in Roswell, New Mexico. And so the plot of the story is I'm on a road trip with my son and I'm getting him the perfect graduation gift, and it's a map that takes us to an alien artifact. And the shopkeeper's like, well, you know, no one who goes there ever came back. So we find the cool cave. Oh, okay, so first we drive to the cool cave. Pretend you didn't see the cool cave yet. And I think pretty sure this was in Nevada somewhere. Look how cool we are. So cool. So we're following the map. Okay, and the really cool, to me, the coolest set that we found was inside this cave. So this is not actually a cave, this is just a dead end, but this is a real cave that we found. It's right on the border of Mexico, and you're allowed to just go in. It's not, there's no guides, there's no whatever, it's just like you backpack up there and you go wherever you like. So we found exactly the kind of environments that we were looking for. Got to bring our props, so we got like bones and lights and little smoke canisters so we can make it really atmospheric in there. Oh man, I hit my head so bad on this rock right here, like it cracked my neck. And somehow I wasn't paralyzed after that. Don't know how. Not in that scene, but when I was poking around in there the first time. Oh, look at my little beetle friend. So happy we got a beetle in there. Yep, so this is the alien artifact that we were working on in the stream. And then I'm all excited. Yeah, we found the thing. And then out of nowhere, you know, I press, what does this do? And then there's going to be a special effect where we get like pulled into another dimension. And then it's all about like, there's going to be space invaders up in the sky, dropping bombs on us. And so we got to run away. Oh no, space invaders and ducks. Look out for the ducks. And then we just had it where we'd count down like 3, 2, 1, and then we'd just fall, like, so we can have bombs hitting and stuff. And this scene, he's like, I'm just gonna throw a rock at him, and it doesn't even come close to hitting him. Okay, hold on. We need a way better music for this stuff. Okay. Shane was having fun doing all this parkour in the desert. Oh yeah, look at this crazy thing. Like, it's had all these square tiles. It's so cool. This was in Capitol Reef National Park. And then the green props, you gotta imagine that they're replaced with cool special effects. They'll look like holograms. In this scene, we find a spaceship to fight him, and I'm like, yes, and I go run for the spaceship, but then they drop a bomb. You have to imagine there's a spaceship here. It gets blown up. Oh no, and I'm all sad. I thought I was gonna have a spaceship. I was finally gonna have a spaceship. No. Shane's blocking the bombs for me while I mourn. And then, but we find a gun from the spaceship, and we're able to use those to fight back. And then we'll have a bunch of fun, like, running and gunning footage. One of the running gags is that I always miss every shot, because that's how it really is when I play video games. We got some footage from our drone. We had like a selfie drone that in theory is supposed to be able to go around and like follow you and stuff, but almost never worked. Yeah, Letha, it is some amazing scenery. We went all over the place to get it. Here's Crater Lake. Here's where we're trying to fool the Space Invaders. We figured out how to make portals to go from world to world. So you had to lure the Space Invader, and they drop a bomb. Wherever they drop a bomb that has like pieces of them, forms the next portal to get to the next world. So the story, as far as it goes, is a lot of like just figuring out how to survive and how to progress forward until we finally find a boss to fight. Once we beat the boss, then we get out, and then there's going to be a twist ending or whatever. But yeah, so that's just kind of a sample of the cool places we went. Sorry for everyone who already sat through that in the last stream. Okay, so I'm going to start the process of redoing these thingy things, the ringy thingy things. Letha, imagine how good it's going to be with like actual editing and dialogue and music and stuff. I have a friend who did the music for Descent 3 who said he's probably going to be able to do the music for this for us. It's going to be super cool. So, black and white epoxy sculpt. Probably don't need much. Magic Penguins says, sweet, lots of neat looking formations. I'd like to find a cave thingy here in Colorado sometime. Neat how many cool rock formations right here in the US. Yep, it is neat. I'll bet you anything you got caves pretty near you. We were very close to Colorado. We kind of skirted around the southwestern corner of it. And yeah, there's so many cool things all around. I really wish we could have spent more time and had a more leisurely kind of time with it, but you know, limited time off and limited energy as well. One thing I was happy to see is that even though Shane is, you know, much younger than me, and, you know, theoretically more energy and whatever, like, I outpaced him consistently, like, I wouldn't say I was faster than him, but I had a lot more stamina. Like, I kept having to be like, Come on, we got to do this one more. We got to put the camera here for and do this scene one more time. He's just like, ah, but it hurts. My feet hurt. I'm tired. So, hopefully he thanks me for it in the long run, and he doesn't just like resent me and think I was a terrible father. We'll see. You never know. It happened with one son. It could happen with another. Yeah, I actually asked Shane at one point. I was like, listen, the point of this is for us to like bond, you know, have a good bonding time as father and son, you know, as you're entering adulthood, make awesome memories. Do you want me to stop pushing you to like make this as high quality production as possible? And he was like, no, I want you to keep pushing me. So I at least got that. He agreed in the abstract that the harder we worked on it while we're out there, you know, the better footage we had to work with, the better his project is going to end up, and which then equals more likely to impress people with his portfolio, the more likely he is to get other jobs from it, etc., etc. So, but it's always tricky to navigate that line of like, how far do you push someone who isn't like as into something as you are. Like Aletha, I remember when we were climbing Mount St. Helens, I'm trying to remember, I think it was right after I moved up here about 14, 15 years ago. I want to say Uncle Bob was there too, but your mom made it like 3/4, maybe a little bit more than that, up the mountain, and it was just like, yeah, I give up. I don't want to go to the top anymore. And I kept trying to cajole her. I was like, come on, you could do it. You're practically there. Like, it's, and I want to say, I'll have to double check with her, but I want to say she ended up doing it and then thanking me for, you know, playing cheerleader for her to get there. But that could also just be my ego's memory of being like, yeah, Josh, you're a good helper. She might actually hate and be annoyed by me because of that, for all I know. That's another thing I learned from cognitive biases, is that memory is not like a tape that you play that has a recording of the events. Memories are actually a reconstruction that happens on the fly based on your emotional proclivities at the time, like how you're feeling, what you've eaten, you know, just all sorts of like recent things that have happened to you, color. Like they've done all these tests to determine this, like they can completely change your perception of a memory. You could be primed to remember things that didn't happen. You could be primed to change the facts or forget things based on all sorts of different inputs that researchers have figured out how to do. Aletha says, I think Mom did make it. Someone else carried her backpack for her. Now that may have been me, actually. You've done the hike 3 times. Never again. Yeah, it gets rough near the end, that's for sure. You know, I took both of my sons up to the top for their coming of age ceremonies. I feel like it's at that sweet spot where it's not easy, but it's also not like soul-crushingly difficult. Just enough to be very memorable. especially when you add all the like ceremonial elements that I was doing, like we're gonna put these rocks in your backpack that represent these, you know, values, and then replace them with other rocks that represent the opposite of those values, and these rocks are bigger and heavier and sharper. I had one person comment on the video I made about that, the coming of age video, that I was like basically implying I was a psychopath for doing that to my sons. And who knows? Maybe he's right. One of my sons certainly does not appreciate me, so. All I can guarantee is that I honestly tried my best. I think I need to put down a little bit of super glue before I lay these rings down. I keep wanting to slip away. AJ Baki says, there was something I recently came across that was different than how I remembered it, and I thought about how unreliable memory is, but now I don't remember what that thing was. Well, how apropos is that? Nox Strix says, hello Josh, I know of you back from the days of Bleed Zeo. My girlfriend sculpts and wants to know the medium you are using. Cool. What was your handle on Bleed Zeo? I'm using epoxy sculpt. There we go. Which is a 2-part epoxy. You mix it together, and then you got about an hour and a half to work with it. Man, we've got the Bleed Zeo representing tonight. There's 3 of us here. That's like practically a quarter of the membership. Yes, welcome to the Bleed Zeo reunion. It's funny, in my little slideshow, I just saw the Bleed Zeo banana dancing on a sculpture I did. Those were the days. Remember the days of forums? Dedicated forums. Like, I wonder if those still exist. I mean, they kind of exist as, like, subgroups in Facebook or whatever, but, like, I am going to this website dedicated to this one band. Does that still happen? Oh, superglue, yes. Noxtrix says, I was either Noxtrix or Lord Dust. I can't remember. I was more of a lurker than a poster. I vaguely remember a Lord Dust. Might even vaguely remember a Noxtrix. But don't quote me on that. Anyway, hey, thanks for stopping by. That's awesome. Blast from the Past. What am I looking for? X-Acto knife. That's what I'm looking for. Someday they will invent a super glue dispenser that doesn't constantly clog up. Someday. Today is not that day. So yeah, I find just a teeny tiny bit of super glue where I need to, whenever you're adding thin strips of this stuff, it's hard to keep it in place. As you can see, it sticks great if you have more than about a 1/4 inch. Knocksticks is following. Thank you, thank you. Out of curiosity, how did you find out about this? Was it through a post that I made on Facebook or Twitter? Noxtrix says, I always remember the soda demon you made for someone in the gift exchange. Yeah, for Gus. It wasn't soda, it was an Arnold Palmer half and half lemonade iced tea, because that was his favorite drink. And they did not sell that in the Seattle area. When I was looking around, I went to probably 30 different stores looking for that diggity dang particular brand of drink. That was, to me, that was the hardest part of making that sculpture. Magic Penguin says, I think forums help keep ideas more organized. I miss it. Yeah, I guess in a sense. I want to see if I could find these Gus things, just in case anyone watching the stream or the recording later is curious what we're talking about. Here we go. Yeah, so this was a white elephant gift exchange. Is that it? It was like you would draw someone's name and then you had to get a gift for them. And so I did a portrait of Gus. Kind of based, he had all these what is that art style called? Tattoos that were in this bio-organic style. And he had talked about how much he liked Arnold Palmer lemonade iced tea. So I just thought it'd be fun to make him busting out of a can like that. Which actually is really dumb, because this can is like the worst design for that. Oh look, and here they are upside down. Because it's so busy graphically that it really takes away from the sculptural elements. It makes it hard to read what's happening, like that it's a monster busting out of a can. But yeah, good times. Times when I would spend, 50 hours on a gift for a, relative stranger, because I was crazy. Because I was crazy. Noxtrix says, follow you on Twitter. I think I have you and Rev from back then, so I saw your Twitter post. First time I managed to catch you live. Awesome. Good to know. I'm always curious how people discover and rediscover, and like what is worth my time trying to pursue when it comes to promoting my various activities. So it's good to know that posting on Twitter sometimes does a thing. Yay! This is a great place to use a brush. Is this a good brush? This is probably a good brush. So this stuff here, specifically for Noxtrix's girlfriend, is, there we go, safety solvent, which is by the same company that makes the epoxy sculpt. and you can use water for it, but this just works better, and it helps you smooth out, round out corners and that sort of thing, because it semi dissolves just enough to get it to um, be more easily manipulatable. Of course, the more you put on it, the more it's going to turn into mush. So you can't like douse it in the stuff, but it's very handy for these kind of applications. Wonder why my music died. Why you die, music? I just broke one of my cardinal art rules, which is when you have a repetitive task to do on a sculpture like this, and it's like a new thing that you're doing on it, a new element that you're adding, always start in the back, because by the time you work your way around to the front, you're going to have kind of evolved your technique, and your best looking stuff is going to be the later stuff, almost always. One thing that I wish epoxy clay did better is stay rolled up into snakes without breaking into pieces. Because I got so many snakes to make. Yeah, it's crazy to think, like, I want to say I got on the Bleed Zeo forums in 2004. It was either 2003, like late 2003, early 2004. So that was a time, that was before YouTube, before Facebook, before Twitter. Like, what did exist? I mean, like, we had videos on the internet, but they weren't like in one place where you could consistently go to see them. It's hard for me to remember how the internet was different back then. Like, it obviously had to be. but it feels like social media and YouTube and that kind of stuff has just always been a thing. Probably doesn't help that my life has been incredibly stagnant since then, in the sense that I've had the same job. Uh, in 2005, I got married and still married to my wife. Lived in pretty much the same place. I do not mean stagnant in a bad way, by the way. I actually enjoy being in one place, and uh, being stagnant in like relationship and living condition and work is great because I get to put all the energy that would go into dealing with new stuff. Instead, I get to put that into building my platform, writing these books, creating this company, hopefully. I like the stagnation in my life. I don't think I've ever been one of those midlife crisis guys just because I've always loved what I'm doing so much. PJ Baki says, I bought a really big box for the cats. It was delivered yesterday, and lucky for me, there was a saddle in it. Oh man, what a great coincidence. You just happen to have a horse, and that could use a saddle, so... I'm guessing that box was probably hundreds of dollars. But hey, if you luck out and you end up with a box that has a saddle in it, then it's totally worth it. I mean, for the cats. It's totally worth it for the cats. They are the important part of that equation, of course. What kind of saddle did you end up with? You like the Western style, right? I remember you were posting pictures of like there's a Western saddle and like is it a European saddle or something that's like a little more, well, it's a much lighter, less supportive type saddle. Am I remembering that correctly? Also, why are we listening to haunted house Halloween music? Midnight in the Graveyard, eh? I would rather listen to Precious Like a Child by Sylph. Thank you very much. Shiny Western saddle. The other ones are English. That's the word. Okay, English. Those darned English and their flimsy saddles. No wonder we won the war for independence. We had shiny Western saddles. Right? Working on this part really makes me want to make the turtle that this shell, this like disc is based on. I should probably make it the turtle creature that pulls their sea chariots. Western is the way to go. So I sold my custom Western saddle to a friend and she loves it. She used to ride English, but now she's going all Western. Yeehaw! She takes me and Sononi on trail rides. Nice. That sounds nice. Does she constantly shout yeehaw as she rides? Because that's what I would do if I was on a Western saddle. That, and I'd be firing my 6-shooters up into the air constantly. You do not want to ride with me, trust me. I have a writing question for you, Aletha. And by writing, I mean writing, as opposed to riding, which is what we were just talking about. Okay, so you know how you and several other people kind of ran into action fatigue with the third Bowmark book, right? So I'm trying to think about how to cut the scenes that just like go on and on, have too much weird actiony stuff in them, but still preserve the idea that they happened, so that like for the director's cut version of the book and for the TV series, etc., that stuff can still be in there. Like, it won't be some out of nowhere, like, what? This never happened in Bowmark's adventure. So, as far as I can tell, there's like 2 ways to handle it. One is to keep the scene, but just like massively shorten it. To be like, I don't know, like, you know, a sentence or 2 per weird area or thing or action, so that what used to be a chapter just ends up being like a couple paragraphs. Saying that out loud, one of my concerns, well, my biggest concern is just technically, can I pull that off? Like, am I good enough writer to be able to maintain the integrity of a scene when it's crunched down that much? The other concern is that maybe that doesn't even like help with the core problem with the action fatigue, because it's still yet another like crazy actiony thing that's happening. So it might still kind of add to the cognitive burden that a reader feels that leads to that kind of burnout. Noxtrix says, is this piece 4 of something specific? I don't recognize it. This is a character. Here's a smaller version so you can see it without me having to move the camera around. A character for the book that I'm talking about right now. We're releasing a trilogy of fantasy action adventure books, hopefully by the end of the year. And the way I'm doing the cover is by I sculpted this guy in sculpted him in ZBrush, printed him out, and now I'm doing additional sculpting work on him, and then I'm going to photograph the sculpture, and that's going to be the book cover. His name is Bowmark, and the book series is called the Scarred King trilogy. But yeah, so getting back to action fatigue and how to deal with it. So one way is to just viciously edit what's there, so that it's very brief, a very brief action set piece. Another way that I can think of to do it is to somehow do the equivalent of a retrospective, like either Bowmark says or Scola says, some characters like, we barely made it out of there alive. Boy, that was a crazy situation, wasn't it? Can you believe we fell in that crazy cave shroom and survived? Whew, that was tough. Okay, well, let's talk about our feelings some more. Okay, so that's the second way I could think of to handle it. The first thing that brings to mind is, I think it was Star Wars Episode 2, where Obi-Wan and Anakin are riding up an elevator, and one of them mentions to the other, "Oh man, remember our adventure in the Gundar nest? We barely survived." And like that, I've seen that pointed out as just like a really bad storytelling thing. Like, it's like, oh yeah, let's talk about some exciting, cool thing that you the audience don't get to see, and the characters just say that they did. Like, that just feels really cheap and bad. So I don't know if that's just a particularly ham-fisted way to do it, and maybe there's a good way to do that. In the same way, like, yeah, there was also a really ham-fisted, terrible love scene dialogue in that movie. That doesn't mean that talking about feelings and love doesn't work in any movies. It just means it was handled really poorly. So maybe there's a good way to handle what I'm talking about. Yeah, so these are the things I'm contemplating. So AJ Baki says, I think keeping them but massively shortening them might be okay, and adding a little more tension, like how Bowmark is feeling in a moment, rather than focusing on a play-by-play actions. Yeah, most people want show, not tell in the story. Yeah, that's definitely something that I struggle with. Is when I'm writing, most of the time I'm envisioning the movie and I'm like subconsciously directing the characters in how I describe their actions and movements and the environment around them. And so yeah, that doesn't leave room in my headspace for like, how is this affecting the character arc and the plot? I'm more thinking, how does this look and feel super cool? So that is why I am not the author of the books. That is why I am a very minor co-author of the books. One of the nice things about self-publishing, though, is we can like take the time to suss through these things, and also because it's digital and or print on demand, I could have as many versions as I want, gosh darn it. And so having a version of the book that is just for like the real diehard fans, or people who just are more in tune to action set piece things and enjoy those at the expense of the flow of the story and the character arc and stuff. Hey, here's a version of the book for you. So Kind of like that idea. It's 10. Oh man, I need to be wrapping up. Fortunately, I only have this much more clay, so I can't keep going forever. Eventually, I'll run out of clay. Yeah, I'm probably hurting my back too. I got back from my trip and I was so impressed. I was like, I did not seriously injure myself despite like all the crazy things we were doing, like squeezing through slot canyons and banging my head on, you know, cave roofs, and you know, just all the hiking and jumping and running. Somehow this 43-year-old man did not injure himself. I'm like, I'm awesome, yeah. And then I get home, and 2 days later I do my live stream, and the day after that my neck and back is just like wrecked. And I think it's because I was doing the, you know, me hunched over doing super detailed stuff, and I hadn't done that in weeks. I don't know. Yes, a magic penguin. I hate sand too, and it does get everywhere. You know, not like Queen Amidala's skin. That is not rough, and it does not get everywhere. This says your body got used to lots of movement and probably loved it, and then was all no when you went back to sitting and hunched. That's as good a theory as any. My body right now is going no. Yeah, I lost like an inch and a half off my love handles during the 2.5 weeks I was gone. Something about running and jumping in 100+ degree weather and constantly stressing over getting to the next location, finding the next location, not getting lost, not wrecking the car, etc., etc. And I tried really hard to eat well on that trip, and for most of it I did. I just had like lunch meat and cheese and apple pieces and sometimes trail mix. I tried to limit that because trail mix actually is really not good for you at all. But yeah, I think it was a pretty physically healthy experience, though it was very emotionally taxing. We got Nostrix cheered. Woohoo! Passing out. Alright. That's fair. You can pass out. Thanks for the cheers, yo. Yeah, I hope to come around again. It's fun reminiscing about old times. We should do it some more. forget what cheers do. Are those the same as tips? Where it's like each of those is worth 1 penny or something? For all I know, each of those is worth like $1,000, and I just my whole car repair just got taken care of. I think we just found out today our car is toast. We're gonna need to get a new one. I pushed it too hard on that trip, which really sucks. Really sucks. I had that car paid off. I was enjoying not having a car payment for like the first time in my life ever. It's like, well, that didn't get to last. If I was smart, I would have been taking all the money that we were putting towards a car and just pretended like we were still paying off a car, putting it in some secret other account where we couldn't touch it, and then suddenly we might have enough cash to just buy a new car outright. That would be like the Dave Ramsey, like, ultimate smart man approach. I'm not that smart man. Yeah, I think I'll still be able to drive us around when you guys visit. I don't think we're going to be getting rid of the car, like, instantly, but probably within the next couple of months, I'm guessing. Sigridic, hey, thanks for the subscription. I think a subscription is the paid thing, right? That's different than the fall. Yes, thank you so much. That's awesome. Out of nowhere, coming to save the day right at the end of the stream. Oh my god. This pattern keeps up, I'm gonna be a 100-air within 100 years. Which has always been my financial goal. A tier 1 sub, 2 months in a row, yeah! Still just Sigrid. Yeah, but I like saying Sigrid. And don't ever say just, you're not just Sigrid. You're the epic, amazing, incredibly supportive, loving, dramatic, talented, intelligent Sigrid. I make all these assumptions because you give me money. I mean, let's be fair here. How could you not be? Why would anyone without all those attributes support me? I think that's my way of looking at it. Alright. Yeah, this is the thing I just have to keep doing. I got about a third of it done. Gonna have to do more later. I just want this to be done. It's not done. Oh. Sigrid, soul in English, Sigrid's son. Sigrid soul. Okay. Okay. Cool. For the first time, possibly in history, I remembered to clean my brush in the safety solvent after using it with the clay, and now I can use this brush again instead of it turning into a chunk of concrete. Hooray for me! Alright, everybody. This has been a good night. I've had a good time chatting with y'all. Let's do it again on Sunday, shall we? And, if you guys really love me, you'll go to my website, breathoflifeart.com, and comment on something. Oh, you know what I should do? I'm going to do this. I'm going to go to my website. Okay. Yes. This is what I'm going to do. So, I'm going to have a format for my show. I'm going to, every show, I'm going to have a cognitive bias that I cover. And then, at some point, I don't know if the end of the show is the best time for it or not. At some point, I will then go and say, hey guys, check out the Dridian on my website. And you can see pretty pictures of them, and you could read about them and look at their stats, and then leave a reply and just give me a comment like, hey, I like that they can carry up to 200 pounds for very short distances. That's cool, but wouldn't it be cooler if they could carry 100 pounds for very short distances? I would like that comment. I would like any comment. Any comment, you guys. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. Remind me, loyal followers of mine, I now have 2 things on the agenda every stream that I can do. Yes, okay. Oh, but here's the thing that's missing. I need to copy that, put it in here, and be like, there you go. Comment. I love it. Okay. Yes. Good night, everyone. I love y'all. I'll see you on the Sunday. Sunday.